There is a version of you that must die. You know exactly who he is, the one who hesitates, the one who breaks promises to himself in silence, where no one sees it but you feel it. The one who hits snooze, not once but every morning, on his potential. The one who scrolls, complains, consumes, compares, instead of building, conquering, becoming. That man, that weak, passive, reactive version of you, has stolen years of your life. He was never meant to survive this long. He was born in your comfort, raised in your excuses, and kept alive by your fear. And if you let him, he will bury your greatness in mediocrity. So I'll say it without hesitation. He must die. Because your true self is not waiting to be discovered. It's waiting to be unleashed. It's been caged beneath compromise and cowardice, drowned out by noise, sedated by a world that sells you comfort as virtue and weakness as wisdom. But the voice underneath, the one you've tried to silence, that's the real you, the one that whispers in the late hours of the night. You were made for more. That voice doesn't lie, and it's time you stop pretending it's just a fantasy. Because it isn't fantasy, it's a demand, a sacred obligation to rise, to evolve, to take the raw chaos of your existence and shape it into something immortal. But that will never happen while the weaker version of you still breathes. So kill him. Kill the part of you that doubts before it acts. Kill the version that seeks permission instead of owning his place. Kill the slave to distraction, to opinion, to comfort. Kill the version of you that survives instead of dominates. Because nothing about mastery is accidental, and nothing about greatness is passive. If you want to rise, you must make a decision, a violent, unforgiving decision, that you will no longer tolerate anything within you that sabotages your potential. You must become the executioner of your lesser self. Not tomorrow, now. And this isn't metaphorical, this is war. Because every day that weak version of you is whispering, tempting, negotiating. Take a break. You've done enough. Play it safe. Don't risk embarrassment. Wait until it's perfect. Don't move yet. But deep down you know what he really is, a liar, a thief, a parasite, feeding on your energy, your ambition, your courage, and giving you nothing in return but a comfortable death. And the world is full of men who fed that parasite until it consumed them. Men who once had fire, but let it dim. Men who once had vision, but traded it for distractions. Men who were called to greatness, but died as spectators in a life they were born to lead. Don't you dare be one of them. You were not created for mediocrity. You were created to conquer yourself, not just once, not just in a moment of hype or clarity, but every day. You rise not by motivation, but by mindset. And mindset isn't just how you think, it's how you live. It's how you wake up in the darkness when no one's clapping, no one's watching, and still do what must be done. It's the voice that says, I don't feel like it, and still acts with precision. It's choosing discipline over dopamine, silence over validation, suffering over stagnation. Because suffering, the right kind, doesn't kill you. It cleanses you. It strips you of illusion. It shows you who you really are. And if you lean into it, if you let it forge you, you'll come out the other side with something no one can buy, fake, or steal. Conviction. Not the fake kind they preach online, but the kind etched into your bones. The kind that wakes you up with hunger and puts you to bed with pride. The kind that refuses to break because it was built in the furnace of pain. Edison had it. He failed over 10,000 times before inventing the light bulb. People mocked him. He didn't care. His purpose was louder than their doubt. Lincoln had it. Depression, failure, loss. But he rose, again and again, because he knew that greatness wasn't handed to him. It had to be wrestled out of hell. You think you're different? You think your pain disqualifies you? No. Your pain prepares you. Your pain is sacred. It's not the reason you can't rise, it's the reason you must. Because if you don't turn that pain into power, it will turn you into a prisoner. And the world has enough of those, but very few are willing to master themselves. Very few have the courage to live as beasts in a world that rewards sheep. And make no mistake, the world will try to tame you. It will seduce you with comfort, pacify you with praise, distract you with pleasure. But comfort is the coffin. Praise is the poison. Pleasure is the trap. You must see them for what they are, the tools of your destruction. Because the weak version of you, he loves them. He feeds on them. He wants to be liked, entertained, validated. He wants to be safe. But you weren't born for safety. You were born for sovereignty. And sovereignty only comes when you rule yourself like a kingdom. That means your thoughts, your emotions, your choices, all of it must come under your command. No excuses, no outsourcing. No more blaming the past, your parents, the system, the culture, or the algorithm. Your life is your responsibility, period. And once you accept that fully, everything changes. You stop negotiating with laziness. You stop explaining your mediocrity. You stop entertaining weakness as if it's compassion. Because true compassion is becoming strong enough to lift others, not stay small so they feel comfortable. True strength is silent, rooted, ruthless. And now, it's your turn to choose it. You either become the master of your mind, or it becomes the master of you. Clarity begins where lies end. And the first lie you must kill is this, that you have time. You don't. You have this moment, this breath, this sliver of light between two eternities, and every second you spend living as a diluted version of yourself is an act of betrayal. You weren't born to drift. You weren't born to wait. You were born to wield, to take the chaos of life and turn it into order, to stand amid the storm and own it. But you cannot own what you refuse to define. Clarity is not found. It is forged. It is a violent act, a stripping away, a ruthless excavation of your soul until all that's left is truth. Who are you? Not your name, not your job, not your labels. Who are you? What drives you when no one's watching? What wakes you in the dead of night? What breaks your heart when you see it in the world? That is your compass. And until you are honest about that, radically, relentlessly honest, you will never rise beyond the noise. Because the world doesn't want you clear. It wants you confused. Confused people are easy to sell to, easy to manipulate, easy to contain. But a man with clarity, he's dangerous. Because you can't move him with shame, you can't seduce him with mediocrity, you can't control him with distraction. He has tasted purpose, and everything else is ash. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper because they said he lacked imagination. Let that sink in. They tried to define him, limit him, box him. But he had vision. Not the kind you scribble on a whiteboard in a meeting, the kind that burns, the kind that turns rejection into resolve, delay into devotion, failure into fuel. He didn't beg for a seat at the table. He built his own kingdom. So why are you still asking for permission? Why are you still waiting for someone to tell you you're enough? You are enough, the moment you decide to be. Clarity is a decision. A man who knows who he is doesn't wait to be chosen. He chooses himself. He defines his standards, his code, his mission. And then he walks like a man possessed by something the world can't quite name, but feels. That is what gives your life gravity, not motivation, conviction. A reason so deep, so raw, so brutally honest that it cuts through your fear like a blade. Because when the vision is clear, the pain becomes irrelevant. The fatigue doesn't matter. The doubt doesn't win. You're locked in. Not because it's easy, but because it's yours. Because something inside you knows that the price of clarity is everything you've ever used to avoid becoming great. Your old identity? Gone. Your comfort zone? Dead. Your need to be understood, liked, applauded. Burn it. There's no room for it here. The path of self-mastery is narrow, sharp, bloody, but it is real. And real is what you've been starving for. Not entertainment, not validation. Not fake confidence bought with likes and filters and dopamine spikes. You want to feel yourself come alive. That doesn't come from comfort. It comes from choosing the hard road with your eyes open every morning, every hour, every breath. You become dangerous the moment you stop living on accident, the moment your day is no longer reactive, but ritualized, built with intention, guarded by discipline, rooted in values that you refuse to betray. And this isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming exact, precise, a weapon, not of violence, but of vision. Because when you live with vision, your presence changes people. You don't even have to speak. You walk into a room and something shifts, Because people can feel when a man has burned the weakness out of himself. They can sense it. It's rare, it's real, and it's revolutionary. But don't expect the world to celebrate it. The world fears what it cannot control. It will try to pull you back with comfort, with guilt, with old stories about who you used to be. Let them talk, let them doubt, let them cling to the version of you that no longer exists. Your job is not to explain your evolution. Your job is to live it, to speak in action, to answer questions with results, to show up so powerfully that people no longer ask, "Who does he think he is?" but instead whisper, "Who is he becoming?" And here's the secret. You're not becoming someone else. You're becoming who you were before the world told you to tone it down. Before you were taught to fit in. Before you learned to fear your own power. You are not creating a new self. You are returning to your true self. And that return requires war. War with comfort. War with distraction. War with every part of you that prefers the known hell over the unknown heaven. You want a new life? Kill the old one. Kill the stories. Kill the habits. Kill the weak man who waits, complains, and hesitates. And what will rise in his place? A man no one can ignore. Not because he's loud, but because he's clear. Not because he demands attention, but because he commands it. Not because he's perfect, but because he is unshakably himself. And that's the most dangerous force on earth. Purpose is not found in books. It's not hiding in a podcast, a retreat, or a motivational video. Purpose is not something you discover. It's something you declare. It's not soft. It's not poetic. It's not romantic. It's a war cry, a line drawn in the sand between who you were and who you refuse to die as. Purpose is choosing to suffer intentionally, to bleed, break, and rise again, for a cause greater than your comfort, louder than your fears, deeper than your doubts. And if you don't choose that cause, you'll live your entire life chasing pleasure, escaping pain, and calling it freedom. But it's not freedom. It's slavery, to impulse, to boredom, to whatever numbs you just enough to forget that you were meant to be dangerous. Because a man without purpose is a man asleep. He may walk, he may talk, he may even succeed by society's shallow standards, but deep down, he knows. He's drifting. Existing, not living, not forging. You can see it in his eyes, the absence of fire. But look into the eyes of a man with purpose. You'll see something ancient. You'll see wrath with direction. You'll see the fury of a soul that refused to kneel, and instead built a throne out of pain, discipline, and self-command. That's not born. That's built. And the tool that builds it? Discipline. Not the surface-level, trend-chasing, motivational post kind, but the raw, unglamorous kind. The kind that shows up at 4 a.m. when no one sees it. The kind that doesn't need hype music, camera angles, or a quote to grind. The kind that says, "I said I would, so I will." Discipline is the ultimate act of self-respect. It's proof that you refuse to be ruled by your emotions, your fatigue, or your excuses. It's the armor you wear into battle with the weak version of you, every single day. Because let's be clear, you will never feel like doing what it takes. Your mind will beg for relief. Your body will scream for ease. And the world will hand you 100 reasons to slow down, give in, take a break. But discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline answers to purpose. It asks one question, what needs to be done? And then it does it. That's why discipline is the foundation of freedom. Not motivation, not luck, not inspiration. Discipline. Because once you become a man who keeps his word to himself, your life bends to your will. Your habits shift. Your energy compounds. Your self-trust becomes bulletproof. And in a world full of men who fold at the first sign of discomfort, you become invincible. But make no mistake, discipline isn't sexy. It's brutal. It's boring. It's lonely. It's building when no one claps. It's training when no one watches. It's saying no 1,000 times to say yes to the one thing that matters. It's 1,000 silent victories stacked into a life that speaks louder than any words. That's how empires are built, brick by brick, habit by habit, choice by choice. And once you master discipline, you unlock the most powerful weapon of all. Action. Not planning, not dreaming, action. Because too many men die strategizing their greatness, but never move. They wait for the perfect plan, the perfect moment, the perfect clarity, But clarity doesn't come before action. It comes from it. You want confidence? Act. You want purpose? Act. You want to kill the weak version of you? Act like he's already dead. Move like the man you want to become would move, even if you don't feel ready, especially when you don't feel ready. Because every time you move with courage in the face of resistance, you cast a vote for the man you're becoming. You etch his shape into reality. You speak to the universe in a language it understands, decisiveness. Action is divine. It is the bridge between thought and transformation. It's what turns suffering into strength, vision into reality, potential into power. But only if you do it ruthlessly. Half-hearted action is just procrastination in disguise. You must move with finality, burn the boats, cut off escape. Go all in, or don't go at all. That's how warriors move. They don't check the weather before they go to war. They are the storm. And you've been playing small for too long. You've been living like you're immortal, like you have endless time to get serious. But time is not your ally. It's a blade. Every day you hesitate, it carves away at your potential. Every excuse is another brick in the prison of the average man. But you were not born to be average. You were born to build kingdoms inside your bones, to lead, to break cycles, to carry the weight that others refuse to lift. So do not wait. Move, now, with urgency, with aggression, with honor. Because when you live with ruthless purpose, when your actions align with your values, you don't just rise. You become unstoppable. Resilience is not bouncing back. It's refusing to stay down. It's not healing so you can return to who you were. It's breaking so you can become someone you've never been. The world romanticizes resilience like it's some gentle, patient quality. But real resilience, it's violent. It's savage. It's a refusal to die before you're dead. It's clawing your way forward when your legs give out, your mind betrays you, and every voice inside you says, quit. Resilience is a war not against the world, but against the part of you that still seeks comfort over conquest. And the truth is this, you don't need an easy life. You need a worthy enemy, because it's resistance that builds your frame. It's chaos that teaches you control. It's pressure that forges your presence. Look at every great soul who ever moved history, and behind their legend, you'll find a long road of hell. Lincoln was broken by depression and failure for decades before he became the backbone of a divided nation. Edison failed over 10,000 times before he gave the world light. Jobs was fired from his own company before returning to reinvent the future. Carnegie grew up in poverty, working 12-hour shifts as a child before he built an empire. These men didn't bounce back. They rose from ashes because inside them was something the world could not touch, a fire that didn't need perfect conditions to burn. And that fire is in you. But it's buried, under fear, under trauma, under years of conditioning that told you to stay safe, stay small, stay silent. You want resilience? Stop avoiding pain. Lean into it. The pain is your proof that you are still alive, still in the fight, still becoming. Because what breaks most men isn't pain. It's the belief that pain means something's wrong. But pain is just pressure applied to weakness. And every time you embrace it fully, that weakness becomes strength. It's in the sleepless nights, the rejected pitches, the failed relationships, the endless grind no one sees. Those aren't setbacks, they're sacraments. They are the sacred tests life gives only to those who are worthy of greatness. You want to rise? Then stop asking for an easier path and become stronger than the path you're on. That's what resilience looks like. And to become truly resilient, you must become adaptable, because life will not go as planned. Your routines will be broken. Your perfect blueprints will be shattered. And when that happens, what do? Most fold. They cling to what should have been, but not you. You adapt. You shift without losing your center. You bend, but you never break. Because your identity is not in your plan, it's in your purpose. And your purpose doesn't depend on predictability. It depends on power. Adaptability is the proof that you are no longer reacting to life, but commanding it. It's mental aikido. It's using the force of the obstacle against itself. It's saying, throw what you will, I will not retreat, I will not run, I will use it all. Your environment changes, you evolve. Your schedule collapses, you pivot. Your energy dips, you reframe. Because nothing external can define a man who is internally unshakable. You become like water, flexible in form but unstoppable in flow. And that flow, that's what makes your transformation inevitable, not perfection, not consistency without failure, but immovable intention. This is what Nietzsche meant when he spoke of becoming who you are, not passively discovering some cosmic fate, but actively creating yourself with hammer and flame. The Übermensch isn't born, he is forged. And the fire that forges him is found in the days most men waste, the days of setback, of silence, of solitude. But those who rise, they use the silence. They study the setback. They grow in the solitude. Because the greatest transformations happen away from applause, far from the spotlight, deep in the trenches of private war. And in that war, there is only one enemy left. The version of you who still believes his past is his limit. That man must die, not gently, not politely, but with force. You must bury him in discipline, drown him in vision, and rise, not just better, but reborn as the man who does not need ideal conditions to thrive. The man who does not fear failure, because he uses it. The man who does not hesitate, because he knows who he is. That's resilience. That's adaptability. That's what happens when you kill the weak version of you and rise. You were not born to tiptoe through life, hoping to arrive at death unscarred. You were not meant to blend in. You were meant to break, to be shattered by the weight of life, to be humbled by your own weakness, to be brought to your knees by failure, betrayal, doubt, so that you could learn to rise, but not as the same man, not as the version shaped by childhood wounds or societal comfort, not as the man who feared rejection more than regret, not as the man who chose convenience over conquest. No, the old you must die, that version of you, the one who hesitates when it's time to act, who retreats when challenged, who shrinks from the full weight of his potential. He is a ghost. He was built to survive, not to rule. And survival is not enough. You're not here to make it through life. You're here to dominate it. You're here to leave scars on history, to build something eternal out of flesh, spirit, and sacrifice. And that requires a new identity, not a new aesthetic, not a new set of goals, but a new essence, a total internal revolution, where every weakness becomes a target, where every fear becomes a frontier, where every excuse becomes an enemy. This is the path of self-mastery, and it begins with one ruthless decision. I will no longer tolerate the lesser version of me, not for one more day, not for one more excuse, not for one more morning of waking up knowing you're still living beneath what you are capable of becoming. Because deep down, you already know who that version is. You've seen him in your visions, in your hunger, in the glimpses of greatness that haunt you at night. He walks with clarity. He speaks with power. He moves with precision, not permission. He doesn't beg for approval. He creates gravity. He doesn't seek balance. He seeks alignment. He doesn't ask the world to go easy on him. He dares it to test him. And when life throws chaos, uncertainty, betrayal, he doesn't flinch. He steps forward. Because he knows everything external is just another weapon he can wield. Nothing breaks him. Not because he's invincible, but because he is willing. Willing to suffer. Willing to bleed. Willing to become. You can become that man, but only by letting go of who you've been. You cannot rise while holding onto your chains. You cannot lead while clinging to your fears. You cannot dominate while negotiating with doubt. So stop asking for signs. Be the sign. Stop praying for a way out and build a way through. Stop hoping life will hand you meaning and create your own. You are the sculptor, and the clay is every day you wake up still breathing, still standing, still in the fight. So take the chisel and carve. Carve out the cowardice, carve out the laziness. Carve out every excuse that's ever slipped from your lips, and in its place, forge discipline, forge power, forge a will so unrelenting that life itself begins to bend around your presence. Because self-mastery is not about control over life, it's about control over yourself, your emotions, your choices, your response. Everything else is noise. You don't need to master the world, you just need to master you. And that means living by code, not convenience. That means doing what must be done, especially when you don't feel like it. That means turning adversity into fuel, betrayal into clarity, and pain into precision. It means showing up day after day, not for applause, but because your mission demands it. That is the path of the warrior. And it's not a metaphor. It's not poetic. It's war. War against mediocrity. War against inherited weakness. War against the soft voice that says, it's okay, you've done enough, because it's never enough, until you become the man you were born to be. And even then, you rise again, because there is no finish line. There is no final destination. There is only the next level, the next mountain, the next battle. And once you've killed the weak version of you, once you've burned him to ash, you don't relax. You rise again, from the fire, from the ruins, from the silence of who you were, into the roar of who you choose to become. This is the work of a lifetime, not a season, not a phase, not a trend, a calling. A sacred oath to yourself that says, I will never betray the man I was born to be, not for comfort, not for safety, not for anyone. Because once you've tasted your own power, once you've lived a day as the fullest version of you, you will never go back, not to the couch, not to the excuses, not to the life of quiet desperation dressed up in distractions and dopamine, because you'll know that life is a slow death. And you were made for more depth, more danger, more fire. So now, choose. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Kill the weak version of you and rise. Let the world feel your presence like thunder. Let your discipline speak louder than your words. Let your legacy be the proof that one man can look his demons in the eye and smile, because he knows he already buried them, and in their place he built a weapon, a king, a storm, a man no longer at war with himself, but a man who became the war. And now there is only one path forward, unrelenting, unapologetic, unstoppable. Live with ruthless purpose or die in mediocrity, but know this, you will die either way, so make it worth it, make it legendary. Make it the kind of life that echoes through generations, not because you were lucky, but because you decided, and then you became. Forever forward, no retreat, no surrender, only rise.